Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
From the tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man who is inside. Pull back and tell him to take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. Go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play in the alley.
What's up, guys? Welcome into Packers Total Access. My name is Clayton. You can check us out on packernet.com. You can find me on Twitter at Packers_access. If you want to email the show, you can send a message to PackersTotalAccess@gmail.com. You can text the show at 865-658-5824. I'm joined alongside Tim live in Green Bay. We may have Emilio hopping on here in a little bit as well. He's running a little bit behind. Jacob was supposed to be back on the show tonight, but I'm guessing Date Mike took back over. I don't know, Tim. What do you think?
It's either Date Mike or maybe he's just grinding it out at the JOB. So
well, I know this. Anytime you mention Date Mike and then grinding it out right after that, not a good look. Anyway, all right. Just want to give a quick shout out to everybody in the chat. We got a herd in here tonight. We got Josh Martin, we got Goose, we got Eric Sutherland, Marbley. Let's see, Zane Strong. Let's see, Boz. Yeah, we got a whole bunch of people in here. Chad Inc. Man, it's going to get to the point where I can't give the shout-outs. It sucks, too. Sam H. Like I said, Josh Martin, Chris N. in the chat. Yeah, it's already, man, they've already lit it up, too. We got some catching up to do already. Let's do this, man. I want to start, first things, let's kind of go through the chat real quick and just kind of test the pulse here, okay? Obviously, Josh Martin just says, hey, Goose says, I'm much more okay with the trade now as I realize this year is a wash. And Rasul sadly wasn't going to be a part of a full rebuild. I expect more to be shipped off come this offseason. Okay, so Goose is kind of okay with the trade now. Let's see here. Eric Sutherland, make sure we're not missing anything else. Marbley in the chat says, man, I want to go to the Packers draft in 2025 so bad. I'm going to be there. I just asked Mandy just a second. She was up here hanging some pictures on the wall for me, and she was like, yeah, we're going to the draft 2025. All right, let's do it. So we've got to get ahead of the ball there, Tim, and make sure that we got us a good spot and all kinds of everything set up. We're gonna do it up right, man. I think it would be awesome to have just a live pod going, and a meet and greet type thing would be absolutely awesome.
Boots on the ground, man. I'll help out any way I can. Whatever you guys need, let's do it.
Sounds good, man. Sounds good. Eric Sutherland, a little bit of sarcasm. I'm going to go ahead and forewarn you guys. There's some sarcasm in this. He said, as long as the rebuild includes Myers and Newman, moving forward, I'm all in. I love it. Yeah, dude, it's been pretty wild. We'll come back to the chat here in a minute. Let's see here. Yeah, we'll come back to the chat in a minute. I want to start off with this, Goose, or not Goose, but Tim. So I did a poll question yesterday on Goody, right? And here's what I asked. I said, poll for tonight's show. I meant tomorrow night's show, but, you get it. How do you grade the roster that Packers GM Brian Gutekunst has constructed? Okay. And I said, A, trust the process. B, mistakes were made. C, average at best. D, below average, right? And I think I mentioned this as we were signing off last night. I can't remember. But many people said, where's the F? I mean, many people were asking about that. So, obviously, the winner of the poll here, and guys, this was no small sample size. We had 1,113 votes. Was D, 37.5% below average. C, average at best, came in second at 26.7%. B, mistakes were made at 22.8%, and A, trust the process at 13%. So essentially what you're saying is, if you include average at best and below average, which I think we would all agree is not good enough, right? I mean, you're looking at what, 50, 63%, 64% said basically, nah, this ain't good enough. This ain't going to cut it. And that's the part that bothers me is, Tim, everybody's just we're like okay with this roster. Like, I don't understand how anyone can look at this roster and go, okay, here's how they're performing, and we're okay with that. Now, listen, I completely understand that coming into this year, there was many people that were very optimistic, us being those same people. And we're going to be the first to admit when we're wrong. We're not going to be like some of these other people that are just wishy-washy and jumping around. Oh, what are you doing? We know it's going to be a rebuild. Like, come on, people. Let's don't pretend like that was what everybody was saying. As a matter of fact, if you guys remember in the offseason, there was a whole lot of stink about the media calling this a rebuild. And,
Yep.
and at that time, everybody was rushing to it. This ain't a rebuild. This is a loaded roster, blah, 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 right? Injuries do play a factor, absolutely, right? There's no doubt about that. But when you trade away Rasul Douglas, what it says, and make no bones about it, what it says, Tim, is you're not competing in 2024. That's what it tells me, because you had him for a very, very, very reasonable cap number for a top 10, top 20 corner, which is what he was, right? You had him at a reasonable number next year. And it's, well, we can just free up that cap room next year. Okay, so you're saying you don't want to compete next year either. I'm not saying Rasul is the key to us competing next year. But when you send that statement to your locker room, what you're saying is this is a full rebuild. Make no two ways about it, right? So I wanted to point out that poll real quick, right? Yep. And then we got this as well. Actually, why don't we do this? Why don't we start dipping into the press conference? I know you're excited about this, Tim. I have basically I think it's something like 8 minutes, okay? And I'll try to speed it up, but there are some gems in here, okay? And I want to make sure you can hear it, okay? So if you would confirm for me that you can hear it when I play it here. But we heard from Brian Gutekunst today, so let's hear what he had to say.
It's that's a tough one because of what he means to our team. But at the same time, we weren't looking to move anybody. Got a call kind of out of the blue a few days ago, and it ended up being, we kind of weren't really interested in doing it. But at the end of the day, the offer was kind of too good to pass up.
He had been one of the more outspoken people in the locker room about
So I just want to say this, Tim. Remember, we were going, maybe Sewell went and asked him for a trade, right?
Too good to pass up.
And here's the thing.
Him in a fifth for a third, that was too good to pass up, Cody?
Calm down, Tim. Believe me, I feel exactly the same way. Jason Wilde, who we've been critical of on this program, right? And again, I don't have any ill will toward Wilde. I think he's been with the team for a very long time. He brings a perspective from his own admission. He's not a fan, right? So he's a little bit harder on the front office, a little bit harder on the team. He's never been hard on the players, but he's very hard on the team. He asked some questions in this presser that you could tell everybody else in the room was pretty scared to ask. And he kind of holds his feet to the fire a little bit. And I want you to hear how this exchange goes. But yeah, what you were saying, Tim, and one of the things he says, I guess I'll go ahead and ruin it, but we'll hear it here in a second. Wilde said, it's not really a third. You said you got a third and it was too good to pass up on. It's not really a third. You gave a fifth. And when you balance that out, it essentially comes to a fourth round pick. I mean, that's basically what you're looking at as far as you're looking at the chart, right? The value chart. But let's hear what else he's got to say here.
What Matt said after this past game was a mess. Did that have any bearing?
Not at all. No. Rasul's been a really good leader for us, really positive leader for us. So really had nothing to do with that.
So along those lines, you swapped the draft picks as well, but Rasul's you mentioned the leadership. He's a good player. Is that, I guess in the middle ground, it's like a fourth round pick, basically you get for him, right, kind of down to two. Is that worth it for a productive starting guy who's a leader?
Yeah, we thought it was the best interest in the Packers. I mean, obviously in the short term, you lose a good player, that's tough. But at the same time, I think looking kind of long term, it's going to be in our best interest. So, anytime you get a third round pick that's going to kind of be within the top 100, probably going to be in the top 50 players you have on your board. That's something I think was just too good for us to pass up. We wish him well. He served us well while he was here, and like I said, we're excited about the opportunities it presents for some other guys.
Back to Jordan, you've got an enormous decision to make there, right? All
right, so we'll come back. He's asking about Jordan right here, and I want you to watch Goody's face. Doug in the chat said Wilde brought the heat today. He absolutely did. So, one of the things right there, Tim, obviously he's kind of setting himself up to say, okay, we did what's in the best interest of the club, right? Which is picking up essentially fourth round value, right? In the form of a third round pick with you giving a fifth, right? So essentially you're saying your organization is better off without him having picked up that pick, right? Well, later on, he makes a comment too. And again, a little spoiler, but we'll get to it. Later on, he makes a comment and says, right now, we're just focused on beating the Rams. And Wildy literally hits the brakes and says, so you're sitting here saying the top priority is to beat the Rams? Surely you can't think letting Rasul Douglas go gives you a better chance to beat the Rams. Like, he comes off looking pretty bad in this, but here he's being asked about Jordan Love, and look at the look on his face right here. Watch this.
If the season doesn't go right, you might end up top 5 pick, or you got to give him a contract extension. I mean, there's these humongous variations. So what do you need to see out of him the next time?
Obviously, there'll be time for that, Bill. I think right now we're worried about beating the Rams. That's the most important thing. So right now it's just about we have a lot of faith in Jordan, and I think so. We got to get the offense playing better, and when that does, those things will take care of themselves. But right now, I think we're really focused on the Rams.
Guti, how do you balance that? You can say we're focused on beating the Rams, but your chances of beating the Rams didn't get better by trading Rasul yesterday, right? Like with what you've got at corner right now. So how do you balance it? I know you don't like the word rebuild and that kind of thing, but if this is in the best interest of the team, it's because you're getting to move into the third. I mean, you didn't get a 3rd round pick for him, right? Like, you gave up a 5th round pick as part of it, which could be toward the top of the 5th round potentially. So how do you balance we want to beat the Rams on Sunday with what you're trying to do long term?
Yeah, I mean, you look at it all, right? You look where your team's at, and I think for us right now, I think we have some young players at that position we really like, and we want to see play. We need to see play, right? And to me, it's about, we got to play better as units, offense, defense, and special team, play complementary football. We haven't done that. And I think, this is, again, I know whenever you take any player away from your football team, it's tough to get better, right? But at the same time, I think, my job is to kind of keep an eye on right now, but also, an eye on the future. And again, getting a pick in the top 100 was something that I just didn't think we could pass up at this time.
That was kind of what you said too when we talked about Mercedes and not bringing him back, right? So the other part I'm curious about is, I saw Rasul on Monday in the corner of the locker room with Wicks and Valentine, and he was clearly talking to them, kind of trying to build them up and say, hey, we got to get our act together, right? He walked off the field with Jordan, trying to kind of pump him up too. I'm wondering, do you have to consider when you're weighing this trade what the message is to the locker room for the guys that are in there now, sure. and what do you think that message is, or how that gets received?
Yeah, no, you consider all those things. I think you consider all those things, and quite frankly, at the beginning, that's why I said no. I'm like, yeah, not, for what was being offered, it didn't make any sense. But once it got to a certain point, there's some offers you can't refuse, and this is one of those. You know what I mean, for the player. And again, we wish him well, but I also think right now that there's opportunity. And I have a lot of expectations for players to step into leadership roles that need to step into leadership roles. I think they've done that. We've certainly seen some evidence of that, and I think that needs to continue to grow. And I'm hopeful and excited that it will.
Once you make the one move.
All right, so let's hit a pause there, Tim, and get your take on all that real quick. Let me timestamp that 4:20 mark. What's your take so far, man?
Blah, blah, blah.
It's a rebuild. Just say it. Just say it's a
boilerplate statement, blah, blah, blah. I wish we had a little bit better video quality on that. We could see the beads of sweat dripping off his forehead. And clearly he was uncomfortable with some of those questions, which finally a little golf clap for the media for holding him to the fire a little bit. Big props to the press corps there. But, I don't know, man. It's like my homegirl Jess said on Twitter today. She said, this man came here and traded away Devontae, and he traded away Aaron Rodgers. Now he traded away Rasul Douglas, and this is his attitude. This is kind of his response. It's like, you wonder why people are upset. I'm trying to find out how this makes sense. And I was the first one that, you were the one who broke the news to me when we got the text. And I couldn't believe I could see Rasul for a third, but what I didn't see was Rasul and a pick for a third. And it still doesn't make much sense to me. I guess we'll see what the future holds, but it's not a good look. And Guti clearly and to his credit, and to all of our credits, let's understand, being a GM in the NFL means you're not going to really give a rip about what the fans think at the end of the day. Your job is to make decisions. You're paid millions of dollars to make decisions for your football team. So I don't think how we feel was anywhere in that decision-making process. But I don't know. He did shed a little light onto what I said yesterday, was maybe they're high on Valentine. Maybe they're high on some of these other corners that they've brought in as they continue to work out more. I believe there was a couple more that came in this week that have been worked out. So it's a youth movement. So I guess we'll see. Can't wait to see Carrington Valentine start on Sunday. I'm assuming that's what's going to happen. So yeah, I don't know. Well, I'm not impressed with the press conference. It is fun to see him squirm a little bit. But other than that, I figured I wouldn't get much out of Goody, especially not a straight answer.
Yeah.
So.
Yeah. And of course they're going to try to be as guarded as possible, but and people were going, well, they can't come out and say that, it's a rebuild because they'll lose the locker room. Did you guys
locker room's gone?
Today? Yeah. And we'll talk about that here in just a second. Josh Martin with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. We appreciate you supporting the stream, man. He said all that came out of yesterday's trade was that Preston Smith got promoted to cornerback too. I admit I was wrong on thinking this wasn't a rebuild year. Yeah, man. I don't ever look at like when you have a year where you're going in, you're young. I don't think a coaching staff and players are going, hey, you know what, guys, we'll just do the best we can. Like you're exhausting all avenues, right, of any way to make your team better. And there was actually a question asked here in a minute, I think it's on this as well, where essentially what they asked him was something along the lines of God, what was it? I'm trying to think. I drew a blank. We'll get to it here in a minute. It was something along the lines of team building or what have you. And it's just like he'll the thing that gets me about it, Tim, he says one thing, and then literally 2 minutes later, he says something that's totally opposed to the previous, thought.
Hey man, this guy has definitely got a career in politics after football. If he needs one, for sure, because it's like a politician.
Yeah.
Which way is the wind blowing today? That's how I'm gonna address the questions.
Yeah, definitely. All right, we got Robert Allen. Thank you so much for the super chat, buddy. We appreciate you, man. That means a lot to us, bud. He said, Matt LaFleur presser, why is the running game worse than last year? Matt LaFleur, many reasons, scheme, defenses, but what are we emphasizing this week is what we are emphasizing this week is pad level. So our pad level is worse than last year. Same guys, WTF. That's the thing that's like, you can tell the team has regressed. Tim, it's regressed since the first of the year, right? And I'm pretty sure that's what Robert's saying here. And again, thank you for the super chat, Robert. It's like when you regress from last year, that's one thing. Okay, man, look, we're taking a little bit of a hit here. But when week after week after week, the team continues to regress, what the heck's going on, right? And it's all across the board. Some people like to blame the defense. Some people like to blame the offense. Some people just like to blame Jordan Love. Some people refuse to blame Jordan Love. And the only thing they'll do is blame the receivers for these drops, which is still mind-boggling to me. Yes, there were drops, no doubt about it. But some of these that they're claiming are drops, like the Christian Watson one in the end zone, he's got two defenders hanging off of him.
Even the one to Jones that everyone was crying about Jones dropping was
late.
hot. It was late, high, and behind him.
Yep.
So, I'm not. That's an 80-20. That's 20% on Jones. Like, hey, it hit your hands. Maybe you could have caught it. But here's the other thing. Look at that play, for example. Let's say he catches that ball. What is it, 2 yards? So, like, what are we doing anyway?
And on the checkdowns like that, you want to get to that. People pretend like that flat, those swing passes is something that's your last resort. No, it isn't. It's you're reading middle open, middle closed, high low, right?
Yep.
And then as soon as you realize it's got to go to the flat, it's not.
It's got to go. It's got to get out.
Get it to him with momentum and get up the sideline. It's just, I don't know, it's wild.
Yeah, that Jones play is a great example. He patted that ball and he waited too long. If that ball was thrown in rhythm, it's probably not 2 yards. It's probably 8 to 12 up the sideline or something. if he's hitting that guy in rhythm, but instead it's late and it's behind him.
Yeah.
I mean, we could talk about that one to Musgrave over the middle too, which at first glance looked like it was a great throw and, all of that, but that was a little late too, and it hit him in the shoulder pad. So I don't know.
Yeah, and that's another one too in the flat. That there was people saying that was a drop in the flat there to Musgrave on play. Dude, it was like 3 feet off of the mark. He had to turn his body completely around and try to get a hand on it. It's just wild. And again, it's not all Jordan Love. It's not all the receivers. It's not all the offensive line. It's not all the defense. It's not all Joe Barry, although that's a real popular one. I mean, it's just from the top to bottom. And it screams that there's a culture problem. Last year we were saying that, Tim, but the majority of the people that were saying there were a culture problem in Green Bay were going, it's 12. 12's messing this locker room up. Now 12's gone. We can't blame him anymore. Smug Industry with the super chat. Thank you so much, buddy. Rodgers gave this guy too much credit when he called him Jerry Krause in the group chat. Jerry actually built something. I mean, it's tough because one thing that you can go to, Tim, and it really, really, really makes the Goot supporters upset. Go to his record as a GM when Aaron Rodgers is not on the field. It is horrible. Right now, I don't have the exact number, but I did look it up once before, and I was like, "Oh my God!" Same thing for Matt LaFleur, but with Goody, it's like, again, it's how he kind of just stands up there, like he's built something. Yeah. And I really didn't think we would be sitting here on November 1st, 2023, after Pat McAfee went all in on him, right? Basically saying, "Is he a good GM? Is he a good GM?" And he's getting his information from Rodgers. Rodgers is telling him, "No, this dude's trash." Yeah, I guarantee you he's saying that. And I'm not sitting here saying Goody is trash. What I am saying is, are we not allowed to grade his roster moves? Because when you do it, boy, people get upset. It's amazing. But Smug Industries, thank you so much for the super chat, man. You got anything else you want to add, Tim, before we go back to the presser here?
No, let's just get through it.
Here we go.
Why not look to deal maybe some of the other veterans who might have you might not call?
Yeah, like I said, we didn't go into this looking to deal anybody. Quite frankly, we were kind of looking to add maybe something if we could. That didn't transpire, but this kind of came out of nowhere and just made sense for our football team.
How raw did you think Watson was coming out relative to fairly high picks like that?
Not any more than most.
So what do you think? Has that panned out, or do you think was he a little more raw than you thought coming out?
No, I just think right now our offense isn't playing well as a whole, which I think limits opportunities for all the guys. So I don't think there's any rawness there that we need to worry about now. I know everybody talks a little bit about our team being young. We're 7 games in. I mean, that whole young thing's out the window, right? They're professional football players. There's expectations, and so we're not shying away from that.
Do you evaluate him as effectively a rookie then, since he doesn't have those scars, he doesn't have a lot of snaps, or is he not that because he had?
Yeah, I don't really look at it like that. We're evaluating a first-year player, if that makes sense, because he's really, had his first chance to go out there and game plan week in and week out. So to me right now, it's just it's really looking at the small victories, the small improvements, and making sure we're moving forward. If that doesn't, if that stops happening, then there's problems. But right now, I think we're seeing little things. We just got to get going in the first half.
What are those little things?
I just think the way he's seeing things, the way he's commanding the team, certainly the adversity he's going through and how he responds to that. I think when he sees things for second times, he's doing a good job with things, but sometimes the first time things can catch him a little bit. But again, it's
Tim, I see you shaking your head, bro. I'm blown away.
The way he's seeing things.
Yeah,
he was the only one on the field who thought it was a pass.
At the end of every game, too, it comes down to an opportunity for him to win the game. And every time he's refusing to take checkdowns, forcing the ball deep and throwing an interception.
This would be easier to listen to had we seen improvement.
Right, exactly.
Improvement after the Raiders game and then improvement after the Broncos game, improvement week to week, even if we're taking the losses and the bumps and bruises, as long as we're seeing improvement in our play, and we're not. Right. The one thing I will agree with Goody, though, is, I think there's some truth to what he said there about the offense as a whole is struggling and not playing well.
Absolutely.
And that's gonna limit opportunities when it comes to whether it's Scoot or Jaden Reed or Tay Wicks, whoever we're talking about. If you got a car that's got a bad transmission and a bad motor and bad brakes, I mean, the whole car is not going to perform very well until you fix these issues. So, the offense as a whole has got to play better. He's not lying about that. So, I mean, I guess there's some truth in this press conference so far.
But yeah, as far as like the love talk, right? Like,
Yeah.
we got to give him a whole year. But like people were saying, this thing is such a mess. Are we getting a true evaluation? And I think that's a fair argument. I do.
Yep.
The problem is you can't stand up there at the podium and you're the one who built the roster and then be like, yeah, well, we just, it's going to be hard to evaluate them when we don't. What else do you need? What do you like? You handpicked everyone on this roster, right?
Yep.
Like,
and they're not all misses. Like, I think
no, absolutely.
We can't say that we're not happy to have Rashawn. And, there's some picks here that did make me happy. But overall, Goody's not my favorite right now.
Yeah, me too, man. And listen, I was a big fan of Goody. I was. Now, if we had this type of result, obviously without Aaron Rodgers at quarterback, I wouldn't have been as big a fan. But, I showed Tim a soundbite. You guys can probably find it on my Twitter, where there was I can't remember the name of the podcast, but there's a guy on Twitter that's got a podcast. He tweeted the video of Brian Gutekunst in his very first press conference as new GM. And they asked him about communicating and all that. And he said it was very important for him to communicate to the fans and how much the fans mean. And then they asked him today basically the same question. And he literally says, yeah, I mean, I'm just not, I'm not worried about communicating with the fans. And it was like, whoa, okay. And the comments were lit. They were absolutely lit. It's hard for me to get behind that. I don't know, man. Like you're now deep into this. This is Pat McAfee said it, and people don't want to admit it, but Pat said it. This is now your roster. This is what you built. You inherited some things when you came in. That's true. And a lot of people got upset when he said that, but it's 100% factual. You inherited Aaron Rodgers, right? And now you trade him away and the team goes to absolute crap. And then one of the top two performing defensive players you now decide to trade, all because you can save $6.5 million against the cap next year and put you in a better spot to build for the 2025 season. It's like, I don't know, man. That's a tough
I'm telling you that third round pick's getting packaged and it's getting traded. I can smell it a mile away. I don't see him.
And he smirked too when they mentioned that. Like, do you gotta, look at drafting a quarterback this year? He smirked and just kind of went around the question. But let's try to finish it up. We got a few more minutes here. Let's see what else he says. There's a couple of gems in here, I know.
Really doing a good job on certain things, and it may not show that because the rest of the group's not, and then there's other times the rest of the group are doing some good things and maybe he's not. So it's trying to get everything lined up together and aligned.
So, Goody, real quick, Lauren asked you about messaging to the fans, and I've covered this team for a long time. There haven't been many seasons where we were kind of in this spot around the trade deadline. I mean, there's been a few, but there's a segment of the fan base that now is kind of rooting for you guys to lose more so your draft picks are higher, right? There are definitely teams in this league that tank and move a bunch of players. Why?
I don't really think, I'll push back because I don't think people tank. I really don't.
You really?
I don't. I think people make decisions based on their situations, but I don't think anyone in this league really tries to tank.
You don't think when teams move like 4 or 5 veteran players, they're not like doing that knowing that the results are going to be poor?
I think they may look at their situation and think that they are building for the future. But they're not tanking. They're not trying to lose. I think everybody goes out there and tries to win every single game. I think sometimes you have.
Are you hearing this, Tim? I can't.
Hey.
Acquire.
Hey, you know what? It's fine. You know what? He's right. Oh, nobody's trying to tank. Okay, well then they're all just okay with losing. We'll just say that. You're saying you're perfectly okay with losing the rest of the year. It sounds like tanking to me, but potato, man, whatever.
It's literally like, you didn't come into work. You didn't want to come to work. Yeah, I wanted to come to work. I couldn't. My car was broke down. You took the battery out of it. Like that's why you couldn't come in work. It's unbelievable.
Assets that may help you more the next year than it does at the moment. But I don't think anyone ever tanks in this league.
Okay, so we can agree to disagree on that, but the bottom line is, why is it important to keep a winning culture, and when things are tough, that you can't afford to have things go really, really south? You don't, and you fight like hell to prevent that from happening.
Yeah, I think no matter what adversity you have, I think it's really important to keep the locker room tight. And I think that's very, very important. And to understand that this is not an easy league, and that the only way you get out of situations is to keep working and keep coming together. So I think that's important, and I think also to kind of maintain the expectations of what they are around here. I think that's really important. Again, the excuses of being young and all that, it's easy to fall back on those things, but I don't think we have any time for that.
That's the other thing too. And United Bates with the super chat here. We'll get to it in just a second, buddy. We see you too, Boz. We appreciate you, man. Talking about you can't use youth as a excuse. But what do we hear all the time during the pressers? Well, these guys are young and it's going to take reps and it's going to take the. Now all of a sudden it's, well, they're not rookies anymore. We're 7 games into this thing, or however many games it is, and it's like, which is it? One second you're saying it takes all this time for these rookies to develop. The next second you're saying they've got 7 games under their belt, so that's not an excuse now. It's like, I don't know, man. It seems like a weird way to attack the culture in the locker room. But United Bates here with the super chat, he says, GMs make tough decisions in the best interest of the team. I feel like Goot may be making tough decisions in the interest of Goot. I hope I'm wrong. It's just strange because, to me, all signs point to, Tim, and you correct me if you disagree, man. To me, all signs point to, okay, when Mark Murphy is replaced in 2025, there's a better chance that the new person will come in and go, all right, I want to handpick my guys, right? I want to handpick my GM and let them help me find, my head coach, right? And you put your stamp on it, because any bit of a success that they're going to have coming in, well, this is Murphy's success. That's just by human nature. That's exactly what happened before, right? With the whole, think about it. When Goot came in as GM, right, they had just made the change to Matt LaFleur, right? Well, to the best of my knowledge, Bob Harlan was the one who hired Mike McCarthy, right? So he's the one who hired Mike McCarthy. And then when he steps down, I think it was either 2000 and what was it? It might have been 2007 or 2008. I can't remember the year or whatever. Mark Murphy comes in, right? And he's kind of working off of what Harlan had, but now he's got his quarterback in Aaron Rodgers, right? Okay, this is his regime now. All right, here we go. We're off and running. And now, I don't know, man, as we replace Mark Murphy in 2025, it just doesn't make sense as to why Goot would be trying to rip it down,
right?
And then try to make a run the year of 2025, because he knows his job's going to be on the line. And that's what kind of sparked that thought in my mind when United Bates said it. I feel like Goot's making tough decisions in the interest of Goot. I think that's very well worded.
I agree. I almost feel like Goody thinks that maybe he's going to outlive LaFleur and his staff and, Mark Murphy's retirement, and he'll still be here. And I'm not so sure. I was talking to my wife about this. She made a great point. Why are we entrusting these people with a rebuild when they're not going to be here? Like when it's all said and done, as we look to the future, this team that we put together, is Goody going to be here? We know Murphy won't be here. And there's no guarantee Matt LaFleur will be here. How many years left on his deal? Is he 2025 or 26?
He got an extension.
Okay.
Again, that was it was after, I think it was after Rodgers' second MVPs when he got the extension, because that's why the very next year when Rodgers has the down year, breaks his thumb, that's why Michael Lombardi was saying his famous quote. I love that he said, Aaron Rodgers got everybody a contract extension, got Goot one, he got LaFleur one, and now it's his fault that they're not winning. It's like,
funny how that works out, And I just, hey, nobody's immune to firing. I mean, if they could fire Mike McCarthy with a handful of games left in the season, a guy who brought you a title, then Matt LaFleur's not immune to that either. So I just think it's interesting that, the cat's out of the bag now. Call it what you want. It's a rebuild, guys. Like, here we are.
Yeah. No doubt. Boz, thank you for the super chat, buddy. He says 3 simple words: Frank the Tank. All right. And then Jake Shavink in the house. Appreciate you swinging through, buddy. He says, embrace the tank.
Oh, well, I don't think anybody tanks in this league.
No, well, Goody said they don't. I don't know.
Yeah, I mean, and you know what he says is gold, right? So
it ain't even that he said it, Tim. It's how he said it. He laughed and took a drink of water, like nobody tanks in this league.
Could you explain the value you see in that third-round pick now with your current situation?
Talking about the value of the third-round pick.
How that was to you in your mind, more worth for what your needs and where you're going than keeping a veteran player. What you can do with that third-round pick.
Sure.
Do you think that there's a great class coming that can fill your needs when you get there next spring?
Yeah, there's a pretty good class coming up, but it's more about that's a 4-year contract, 4-year rookie contract. It also frees up a significant amount of resources from the cap for next year as well. So I think it's everything that's involved in that, and then just kind of looking at our team right now and some of the young guys that need to play, and making sure we know what we know there as well. So there's a lot of factors that go into that, but again, we're trying to beat the Rams. That's the number one focus right now this week. But from my aspect of it, there's always a little bit of one eye on the future as well.
What are you giggling about over there?
He doubled down on we're trying to beat the Rams this week. He doubled down on it, man. Oh, my God.
Yeah. So, anyway, that was pretty much – I think that was all of it. I'm sure you're happy that it's over, Tim. But I don't know, dude. Again, there were some other comments in there, too. I didn't hit on everything. I tried to pick out the ones that kind of applied to the conversations we had yesterday, which was absolutely awesome talking with people in the chat. And I love the fact that some people disagree. I think that's great. But let's see here what Smug says in the chat. Thank you for the super chat, Smug. He says, Mark Murphy doesn't get nearly enough blame for this. He inherited Mike McCarthy, Ted Thompson, and Aaron Rodgers. These are all his hires. Man, that's a good point. I've been a big Mark Murphy fan. I know people don't like him. I've always kind of thought he's done a good job because I really appreciate what he's done with Titletown and all that, Yep. I think he's done a phenomenal job on the business side. And keep in mind, that's kind of his main focus. But you're right. He makes a good point, Tim. Like, Mark Murphy hired Brian Gutekunst, right, and Matt LaFleur, okay? Now, we were all excited. I'm not sitting here trying to pretend like, guys, I called this. No, sir. I was as excited for Goody as anyone, as excited for LaFleur as anyone. Never liked the condensed sets, but you knew the league was going in that direction. Who am I to argue with the majority of the league wanting that type of offense, right, and that type of defense that people have grown to hate now? But
you hit it on the head, Clayton. You hit it on the head, though. I love Mark Murphy for the same reasons. The business acumen and the business side of things, the community development and outreach that the Packers do and have done and continue to do under his tenure, the Titletown expansion, Lambeau Field improvements, things like that. I love Mark Murphy for that. But then when it comes to the other side of the coin, we have we got some question marks. And it's almost like you look at our GM situation now. Goody's there to run the football side of things, and Russ Ball is handling the money. So, we kind of put people in boxes, at 1265 and have everyone kind of do their jobs, split up duties, and sometimes this can happen. But then again, it's a double-edged sword because you look at Jerry World down in Dallas, and the buck stops with one man. And they've had their own issues the last, 10, 15, 20 years. So, there is no perfect answer, perfect scenario for this. But I think it's fair to say that some of the blame could fall on Murphy. I mean, hey, it starts at the top, right? Doesn't get much higher than the president. So,
yeah, I agree, man. I don't know, dude. Again, what it's saying is 2025. That's what I'm hearing. I'm trying to think of how we turn this into success in 2024 when you just made your roster weaker in 2024 by getting rid of the second best player on your defense as it sits right now, only behind Rashawn Gary.
And it makes me sick to my stomach that we're 7 games into a season talking about 2024 and 2025 already.
Right.
That there is absolutely no discussion about what we're going to do to turn this ship around right now and finish this season with some semblance of dignity. And it's just sad. It really is.
That's the part that bothers me too, because it's like all of a sudden that's where everything shifted to.
Yeah.
And
we were told the opposite. We were told the opposite. We weren't going to miss a beat. We're still going to compete. And we got a lot of talent on this roster. And I still believe there is, because you know what? Every single player in the National Football League has talent. The last guy on the practice squad has talent, or he wouldn't be there. Talent doesn't mean anything without the prep, the hard work, the scheme, the dedication, the drive, the focus, all the other things that you have to do to take your talent to the next level and win football games. I mean, that's what we see the best of the best do week in, week out. There's no difference between us and any of the other 31 teams in the league. So, I'm over the whole talent discussion. What are we doing with the talent that we have?
Yeah, that's the other problem for sure. But again, Smug, thank you for the super chat, buddy. I'm trying not to get heated over it and everything, because it really bothers me to see how people do this 180. And when they do that 180, I love going back and checking people's track record, right? Especially the ones that never admit they're wrong. You go back and just look and say, okay, when this guy kind of feels like he's carrying the water for Goody. All right, let's go through his Twitter. Let's just search his Twitter and type in Brian Gutekunst and see how many times he criticized him. And you won't find it. It's kind of like the whole Aaron Rodgers thing too, by the way. You want to get controversial real quick? This is a fun one to do. You should go do this experiment, okay? Everyone who says, "Oh, it didn't have anything to do with the shot," right? It's just I'm tired of him, whatever. Go back and search Aaron Rodgers on someone who just absolutely bashed Aaron Rodgers, and I'm telling you, before he came out and said that he was immunized, you will find nothing negative on him, nothing. And after that, it's just bang, 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 bang. And that's fine. You want to hate somebody for that? That's cool. But me, I'd rather have a good football team and let other people make their own decisions. I don't understand why that's.
Call me old-fashioned, but I don't really.
Not my business.
It's not my business what people do with their medical decisions. But I'm old school.
I'm a bigot, I guess. But let's see. Josh Martin with the super chat. Thank you, buddy. He said, "Is Goot trying to make us look like a premier coaching position with a high draft picks and a new rookie quarterback? LaFleur gone at the end of the year." I don't know, man. And you guys have heard my take on this. I kind of feel bad for LaFleur, but simply because he was put in a position to fail this year. And I want to say that maybe they got together, like they meet constantly, and Goody talked about it in his press conference that they talk multiple times per day, because somebody asked them, it's got to be tough on a coach because you got your players, you've spent all this time training them, right, and getting them to their peak performance, right, and this is one of the few players that is performing at their peak, right, and then all of a sudden you deal them, and it's like, how does that affect that coach? And he said, yeah, well, we talk on a daily basis, multiple times a day, and he just kind of blew it off. But
that's what I say, blah, blah, blah. I'm going to say the right thing because the cameras are in my face,
it feels like LaFleur is just propped up there, like somebody said earlier in the chat, like a patsy.
Oh, yeah. And you know what? He'll be gone before Goody will.
Oh, absolutely.
At the end of the day, that's just, you can see that coming. If there's going to be any firings, it's not going to be the GM.
Coming into the season too, Josh, maybe this is the best way to answer your question, buddy. Coming into the season, I was seeing 6 to 10 wins. That's what I seen, right? And you guys heard me at one point. I got, after those 2 wins, I'm going, hey, man, you know what? I don't think it's out of the realm of possibility to win 10 games. And then, boy, it smacked me right in the face, right?
Yeah, I was higher than you were. I was saying 10 wins minimum all throughout camp.
So 6 to 10 wins, right? But what if they only win 4, right? That might be grounds for LaFleur losing his job. Not that I would fire him, but I could see them looking at it that way,
Yeah.
But again, when I watch the tape, people ask me too. They ask me on Twitter. They're like, Clayton, what? I got a DM earlier from a guy, and actually multiples, but this one guy specifically was like, what do you see is wrong with this offense? Like, you're watching the tape, what do you see with it? And people immediately go, well, the scheme is bad. Not the entire scheme. The passing scheme, to me, looks fine. There's times that we call all go, right? And I'm going, what are you doing there in that situation? Now, here's the thing we don't know. Are there choice routes involved, right? Could be. Neither here nor there. But I don't see anything wrong with the passing scheme. It was the running scheme for the first several weeks of the season that just had me baffled, especially, I think it was the first 3 losses was just like, why are we doing this over sifting? Why are we doing all this extra movement? Why are we trying to pull multiple guards? Let's just get good at what it was. Everything that Aaron was talking about we need to simplify this thing. And I think when he was saying simplify this thing, he was also talking about choice routes, maybe reducing the choice routes, that type of thing. There's many debates going on Twitter right now about who's at fault for this and that. There's a play that's circulating right now where Jordan Love drops back to pass and everyone else in the formation, everyone else in the play is run blocking. And, I'm not trying to blast anybody, but one person in particular is like, no, that's an RPO. I'm going, well, how do you see it as an RPO? Well, Aaron Jones just didn't run his route. How do you know that? How do you know that?
Of all the guys that aren't going to run their route properly.
Right. Aaron Jones just didn't. He didn't run his route. So, and if, again, same exact exercise, what I do, go to their Twitter, search Jordan Love.
Yep.
And how many times have they criticized Jordan Love? None. It's just Joe Barry's the reason this offense is bad because they're not stopping people when it's long drives. It was Joe Barry. I was going, oh, okay, got it. That's a biased opinion. All right, cool. Do you? But don't climb on my Twitter feed in my mentions and try to convince me that 10 guys were wrong and 1 was right.
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 And even if that was true, we're still in trouble.
And here's
we're still in trouble.
If it was an RPO, right? If it was an RPO, then it means Aaron Jones didn't run his route, but it also means that the tight end and Rasheed Walker had the wrong read too, because they're 2 yards down the field, and that's the play where he got called for ineligible downfield. So now you've got 3 players, right, that completely debunks your theory, but just brush that under the rug and let's not even talk about it. And again, that's the thing that's so hard to stomach about a bad season. And this goes on all across the league. It's not, we're not the only ones dealing with it, right? But it's how people try to mold the narrative to fit what they think is, and many times it's they're already dug in on something. They're dug in on something. And it's, I can't be proven wrong. It's okay to be wrong. Yeah. And it's also okay to say, I don't know. It's like people in this, especially the social media era, like it's not okay to just go, yeah, man, I screwed it up. I got that one wrong. What I'm saying?
Here it is. That's what we do here. We have no problem admitting
I've been wrong so many times, dude.
Yeah.
And you'll hear me go, yep.
I've been wrong a lot already this year, and I'm sure it won't be the last time. But I'll tell you one thing: I'll be free to admit it when it happens, and I have no problem getting called out when I am wrong. Right. And when I'm right, I don't break my arm patting myself on the back either. At the end of the day, look, we got issues with our football team right now, and we can find out who's at fault all day. But if nothing's going to improve, what difference does it make? So at some point, we have to look at things like Josh just said in the chat. It's a great point. Is he trying to make this look like a sweet gig? Mm-hmm. Which is crazy, as if you have to make the Packers look like a sweet gig. But given the last few seasons and the way things have ended up for us, I think you do. I think you'd have to sell someone on coming here and taking over this team if in fact LaFleur is not the guy after this year. But I don't know.
Yeah, I'm going to come back to the chat here in a minute because there's some really good comments. I'm going to try to lock it in there. Locker room reaction. They asked Goody about that. Check this out. I think it was Matt Schneidman tweeted this out. These were quotes from players today meeting with the media in the locker room about Rasul Douglas being traded. Quote, I'm still sick to my stomach. Another player said, it's tough. It hurts. Another one said, we took a blow. And another one said, I was pretty surprised to say the least. I was pretty surprised to say the least. Like, that's someone in your locker room going, dang, dude, like that was one of the shining points of the roster. Now, here's the thing. If you trade him, what is that message sent to the players? It's that, hey, we don't care about winning. Whether you believe, whether Goody thinks that's the message or not, that's the message the players are going to get. Now, granted, the players are still going to try to perform because they're playing for their checks, they're playing for their career, all that. They're playing for each other, that type of thing. But I just want you to rewind back to 2, 3, whatever, however many years ago it was, Tim. And they were talking about that text message going around in that group that people mentioned in here about referring to Brian Gutekunst as Jerry Krause. Oh, by the way, I was saying that's ridiculous that they're doing that. That's what I'm saying. I'm wrong.
Mm-hmm.
This is one of those many situations where I was wrong because he has completely ran it into the ground. And people say, how can you say that, Clay? Name Goody's best move in the last year. What was his best move? What was his best draft pick? Name it. Like, seriously, last year, right? Not this last draft, but the one before. What was the draft pick? We go, bam, nailed it. That's a good one. No, you know what I mean? I'm sure there's good ones there, Tim, but nothing goes, yeah, man, great move. What was the free agent signing? Rasul's the one that comes to mind for me, and now he's gone. And there's people on Twitter going, literally, they're doing their victory lap, going, look at Goody, got him for nothing and turn it into a third. I'm going, don't we want good players on the team? Like, that's the other thing too. Like,
Goody was the guy who let Jordy walk and brought us Jimmy Graham also, correct?
Right.
So,
right.
I mean, making moves that make fans upset is, nothing new.
Right. And I'm not here saying that I completely disagree with the Jordy move. I just don't like the fact that they didn't even offer him a contract.
That was my thing.
That's the part that hurts. If he's the fourth best wide receiver, well, he'll take snaps from the young ones. You mean like this year? Because that's what we were chanting going into the year, right?
They could have offered him $2 or $3 million and let him just finish his career as a Packer. Yeah. I mean, we would have got at the very least the same level of production that we got out of Jimmy Graham that year, if not more. So definitely.
All right, so we got a couple comments. Well, let me go back. I don't want to skip over these comments, but people are naming off what they think are Goody's moves, and this is what I want to hear for sure. Let's see here. Carly said something up here. First of all, Chris Ian said, this organization's such a bad place. I can't believe it. I agree. I didn't see this coming, Chris, to be honest with you. Carly Ray says, they will not can Murphy. Can you imagine trying to hire a new GM if you push a guy out the year before he retires? Not going to happen.
Oh, yeah, that's not going to happen.
Yeah, I completely agree. Brent says Goody is never wrong. Here's the other thing, too. He doubled down on this. I didn't have the soundbite for you, Tim. It probably would have made you nauseous. But Goot also said Myers is having his best year.
No, does that statement right there, that makes you question competency at your job, right?
Either he's lying or
right,
we're missing something big
or he must think that we're not going to take that serious. But are we supposed to take that serious when you say that? Because if you are being serious, there's a serious issue with how you're viewing the play on the field.
Yeah. And our opinion is formed not off of our, just what we see and what we think we know about football. And I say those terms specifically, what I think I know about football, because I'm not going to sit here and pretend to understand player evaluation better than Brian Gutekunst or understand schematics better than Matt LaFleur. That's not what I'm sitting here saying. But when I talk to people like Mike Wall, who breaks down the tape, and he's looking up and he's going, Josh Myers is an average center. And then he shows clips on Twitter of Josh Myers absolutely whiffing on his block, falling flat on his face, then looking up off the ground like what happened. And that's a second-round pick, right? It's just, I don't know, man. It's
why not just say something like, hey, Josh is having his struggles, but, we believe in him, and that's our guy, and we're going to let him play through it and see what happens as the season progresses. I would have respected that more than you talking to me like I'm an idiot and saying that Josh is playing the best football of his career. That's all I got to say. Hey, I'm not going to get heated either. Take a breath.
Mike's been on one. Y'all need to go check out at Mike Wall 68. He's been on a roll here lately because he thinks. I say he thinks. I'm not trying to sound like like a backhanded comment. I believe him when he says it. It's about fundamentals and what they're actually coaching and teaching. All right. So he would probably side with Goody a little bit more than even we would. I don't think he looks at that roster and goes, this roster is horrible. He's just looking at it going, what are they teaching over there? because you can see the fundamentals or the lack thereof. Deadfish in the chat said, we had 12 for years, which was tough on salary cap. Hard to keep your roster top notch when so much money is going to one player. Packers drafted a lot of players in the last 2 years, hoping they would still be competitive, but it didn't work out. So anyone older than 28 will probably not be re-signed. Let them go for comp picks. They have 11 picks next year, rebuild on. Yeah, that's exactly what's happening, Deadfish. Now, as far as the Aaron Rodgers comment, go back and look at his cap hit. Look at his cap hit over the years. It'll surprise you. I mean, and immediately people go, well, that's not the whole contract. That's what was allocated toward the cap. And the only reason you had to eat the 40-some million this year is because you decided to trade him 1 year into a 3-year extension that was $150 million guaranteed on top of the money that you had already pushed out. And then people freak out when Aaron Rodgers takes a pay cut in New York. Imagine if Goody had included him, right, in the conversation. And listen, I understand that I'm in the minority with this stance. I'm totally cool with people disagreeing. Totally cool with it. But imagine if he had included him in the roster move talks, right? The reason he came out and went scorched earth in that presser where he looked like an absolute hippie and he hadn't washed his hair in about 3 months, that specific presser was because that was the moment that he came to the realization, and Tay came to the realization that I'm not coming back here. I'm done trying to deal with this guy. That's what it – and here's what's crazy. Tay has taken the high road and said he has nothing against Goody, right? No, me and Goody are fine. It was business, but that ship sailed. They weren't willing to pay him what he felt like he was worth. They wanted to lowball him and say, give me, let's look at it one more year. I'm out. That's why Aaron went scorched earth that year. But people who say it's ridiculous that a quarterback wants say in the personnel, okay, then it was ridiculous that Peyton Manning won Super Bowls with the Indianapolis Colts because that dude cut people on the field, guys. Like, that's not a rumor. That happened, that someone made a mistake and he said, I want him cut. Well, everybody loves Peyton Manning, right? Why do they hate Aaron Rodgers? And he just wanted a little bit of say, right? We know why. Immunization. That's it. All right. Garrison Anderson in the chat said, that's probably the toughest thing. I don't know if Love is, quote, the guy due to everything around him. I know upside is there, but it's hard to sort out. Yeah, I think that's a very, very fair assessment, Garrison. I do, man. And that's the part that sucks, is because we've built a roster in a way that we won't know for sure at the end of this year. If Love has a good year, if he finishes with a good year, and there are good things, right? The accuracy is a big issue, Tim. But if he comes out this year and he finishes with twice as many touchdowns as he does interceptions, and he gets that completion percentage somewhere up or around the 60% range, hell, 58, I'd be happy, right? If he finishes somewhere in there, then you go, okay, with this roster, the way it's playing, and the lack of communication and all the things going on around it, maybe we've got something. But when I see him, like people were mentioning in the chat, hopping in the pocket, late on the throws, inaccuracies, bad pre-snap decisions, and somebody mentioned Can, like I cringe too. Somebody earlier in the chat said they kind of cringe when they hear him can out of a play because he thinks he's seeing something that he's not. That's what we refer to as seeing ghosts, right? Yep. People made fun of Sam Darnold a few years ago against the Patriots because he said they had him mocked up and he sat on the bench and said, I'm seeing ghosts out there. What he's talking about is coming to the line, the play call. All right, this is the play that we were going to call based off of everything we prepped for all week long, based off of their tendencies from the last 4 games saturation plus the last 2 head-to-head. Here's the way we're going to attack it. You go out there, they show you a different look, sugaring, and then you change the play or can out of a play or make a slight adjustment, snap the ball, and they're in the exact look that you prepped for, and now you're out of that good play and into a bad play. That's what they refer to as seeing ghosts when you hear people talk about that. I'm sure you guys know about that in the chat, but in case somebody didn't, that's what they're always talking about there. So, all right, cool, man. I think we're about ready to wrap up, Tim. We're at the hour mark. Is there anything else you want to hit on, buddy? You want me to play that presser one more time for you?
No, I'm good, man.
Good.
I'm good. Yeah, I've heard enough. And heard nothing all at the same time. It's sad. We always said, Clayton, we're building a team. We're not collecting talent. And unfortunately, it looks like we're collecting talent.
That's what it feels like, dude.
Yeah.
God, that's using my own words against me. That's exactly what it feels like, Tim. I didn't even think about that, man.
Yeah. We are. It looks like we're collecting talent, and it's sad as a fan. You know, I don't want to hear about next year and the year after. I want to hear about righting the ship this year. But at the end of the day, you know what? Regardless of the moves that are being made, these players got to go out and execute. And you brought up a good point. They're playing for each other. These guys are playing for each other. They're playing for their contracts. They're playing for, you know, their value at their position in this league, especially young players who know they got a few years left on a rookie deal. This is their chance to, get an extension. So, you want to put it all out there on the field. So I think the players can take this upon themselves to just go out there and try and grit out some wins, and hopefully we'll see some fight. But as of late, we haven't. And it seems like there's a disconnect in between the locker room and the front office for sure. Judging by just the sheer shock a lot of these players were under when Rasul was dealt. So I think that there's a gap there between management and the team, and I guess there is in any organization. There has to be. I don't know. It's going to get worse before it gets better. I keep quoting Roadhouse, but it's just what it is, man. And you know what? Nothing's going to change for us. At least from my perspective, I've been through worse as a Packer fan, believe it or not, and it'll get better. We'll be back on top. When you're down, you feel like you'll never get up, and when you're on top, you feel like you'll never fall off. So we have to just ride the storm, guys. Try and stay positive. Keep your eye on your favorite young players on this team and look for improvements. Carrington Valentine comes to mind. Clearly, this guy's going to get thrown into the fire. Hopefully he responds. He was a half step, maybe a step behind in coverages last week. Maybe that changes this week. Maybe we got something, try to leave on a positive note. Yeah. Best of luck to Rasul out in Buffalo.
Yeah. Lee 86 in the chat said Rasul had too much dog to him. Barry wants soft passive players. LO. And they said JK. Trying to get me stirred up in here tonight. Yeah. And they asked Goody, if you guys heard that part of the presser, they asked Goody, he was talking to players at the locker. Did that have anything to do with it? And he said, no, absolutely not. Like, Rasul's a leader, so it's just the value in those picks. If you guys look at the thumbnail for this video, you'll kind of see how I was feeling when I created it. It's Goody with heart emojis in his eyes staring at the NFL draft sign. Right. But that's it's tough for me. Again, man, the part that gets me is just the waffling, the jumping back and forth. And here's the thing, like, Jair Alexander said earlier today, I tell people all the time, we can win out. There's 10 games left. We can win out. I would love to see that happen. There's nothing I would want more to see this team just completely turning around, right? That would be absolutely awesome. I don't see how that move made us a better team, right? Now, if it does happen, like many times before, and we always do on this pod, you'll hear me go, guys, boy, I was wrong. I was wrong. And I hope that's the case. I just can't stand the waffling. I can't stand the going back and forth. These people that, it was last year, it was Aaron Rodgers' fault. And in the offseason, we got in this shouting match where these same people were screaming the whole offseason, this isn't a rebuild. And they were mad that the media was calling it a rebuild. This ain't a rebuild. This is a loaded roster, right? Then last week, all we heard was, we just got to get a win. We need a spark. We got to, we need leaders to step up like Rasul did. Rasul stepped up last week, right? And now Rasul gets traded the very next week. And that was a good move because, we're not competing until 2025 anyway. Like, come on, people. Please don't be that person. Don't be that guy. So, all right.
Is that the goal? We found out we're hosting the draft in 25, and Goody's like, man, we're getting that number 1 pick.
Who just said that? Where did you hear that? Did you just come up with that?
I'm just saying, like, it makes you wonder.
No, don't you? No. Did you just come up with that, Tim?
Yeah, man. I'm not looking at nothing right now. I'm staring at you on the screen. I just, thought crossed my mind.
Tim, I need you to lay it out for me, okay? Really briefly. Explain what you mean with that comment. We're signing off. Go ahead.
I'm just saying. Draft in 2025 at Titletown, at Lambeau Field in Green Bay, and what hype it would be if the Packers were also picking first in that draft, or second, or third, or
God almighty. I can't believe you've done this to me in this program.
Hey, man, Jacob's not here. I got to pick up the slack, man. This is Jacob's, this Conspiracy Corner brought to you by Jacob. He will be back to host his segment soon. So shout out to Jacob. But yeah, and I'm totally just, BSing here. Like, I don't actually believe that, but
Tim, you can't go back on it now, man.
No, I'm not. I'm just saying it makes you think. It makes you think, like, why are we already talking about 2025? Like, why? Because we're hosting the draft. So I don't know. Is he going to take a quarterback in 24 and take I don't know, take a whole bunch of linemen in 25? I mean, I don't know. I'm just,
God almighty.
This is what you have to do when your team's not winning games. Packers just win a game so we can change our subject matter here, man. Just win, man.
I love it, dude. It's unbelievable, man. We're sitting in here talking about the 2025 NFL draft.
Yeah, it's November 1st, 2023.
And I'm having to watch 4-4 Bowling Green play 2-6 Ball State. God. I will remember this Wednesday for the rest of my life.
Well, Clayton, on Sunday you're going to have to watch the Packers play the Rams. So,
well, hey, you heard Goody. At least they are planning on, that's the only thing they're focused on is just beating the Rams. That's it. That's
okay.
Top priority.
I might have to pop over there tomorrow and see what practice looks like.
Tim, don't you get yourself in trouble. What if they come out Sunday, dude, and just absolutely boat race the Rams by 40 points?
You will see me. I will try and put this helmet on my head. If they get a win.
Valentine will have 3 interceptions, a pick 6. You know what I'm saying? Just go absolutely off.
Let's go. Keyshawn's gonna house a kickoff return. Let's do it. Wow. Yeah, I'm all for the positivity. Let's think positive. I'm done thinking about 23 or 24 and 25. Let's put that on the back burner for a while.
All right. God, first pick of the 2025 draft. Who walks up there to the podium? Who does it?
It's Goody. What do you mean?
Goody's
it better be Goody.
You're gonna see Roger Goodell walk out there, right? And start to wave at the crowd, and then Goody's gonna pop on stage like
Roadhouse.
I tell you right now,
welcome to the draft.
If it ain't Goody announcing our pick in the 25 draft, my vote is for Matt Ramage. I want Matt Ramage, 5 Daddy Sodas in, announcing our pick. I'm calling it now.
Matt Ramage is a national treasure.
Yep.
He needs to be protected at all costs. That's
absolutely.
I love that dude, man.
Absolutely.
All right. Well, we're looking forward to that draft. We still got a little bit of time, but I will be there for sure. We'll try to set up something and do a little live broadcast and try to get with Ryan and do that. That'd be a lot of fun.
Yep.
So, all right, we're out of here. Thank you guys so much for hanging out in the chat. You guys were absolutely awesome. I want to give a special shout out to everybody with the super chat. Josh Martin, Robert Allen, Smug Industries, United Baits, Boz. Let's see. Yeah, that's everybody. Thank you guys so much, man. It means a lot to us that you're supporting the stream. And here's the other thing too. Everyone else comment, and please don't think it doesn't mean we don't appreciate you just as much. You know what I mean? Everybody in here, it's what makes this thing so great. I never in a million years would have thought I'd be doing a podcast, and then a year and a half in, I never would have thought that the podcast would be flourishing because we're leaning on the chat and just including people in the conversation. Because I mean, that's the secret, man. It's all about the fans and everybody kind of giving their opinion. That's what makes this thing fun. Chris saying down with Murphy in all caps. God almighty.
You see the one about my hair too? That was a good one.
Somebody making fun of your hair, bro?
No, it was. Let's see if we can find it. That was brilliant.
Let's see here. Who was it? Who did that? I got to
follow. Where is it at?
Podcast here.
Here we go. Eric Sutherland.
Eric's always taking shots, man. Let's see what
this is great.
Eric Sutherland. Tim had dreadlocks at the start of the season. Now the poor guy's put his hair. Oh, that's a Photoshop waiting to happen, Eric. I don't know if you're on Twitter.
Oh, man.
Be ready. That one's happening. If Tim gives me approval, I'm making it happen. All right. We're out of here, guys. Thank y'all so much for making this fun and just keeping things lighthearted. And thanks for respecting each other in the chat. And it's always a blast. Tim, thank you, buddy, for your time. Always great talking ball with you. And we will be back. I promise you. The Packers will return. It's just right now it's hard to kind of see exactly where the vision is other than 2025. And I say it sarcastically, but I also say it with a kind of a little bit of, that's the only thing I can come up with right now. But we'll see what happens, man. Hey, who knows? Like one thing Goody said in that presser, right, was it's an opportunity for other people to step into a leadership role, right, with that void that was left by Rasul. So I hope Rasul goes out there and gets a ring, because I really like that guy, man. He's just a stand-up dude for sure. So with that being said, tomorrow we'll have Paul Brettel on the show. He's going to come in here and give us some insider stuff. I love the fact that he's our Packers insider. Dude does a phenomenal job. So we'll look forward to that conversation like we always do. We'll hit on the injury report tomorrow too. We just had a lot to go. You know, we hadn't heard from Goody since training camp, so I thought it'd be important to kind of get some of the gist of what he said. And, you know, here's the thing too. If there's people in the chat that you like Goody, right, and you think he's doing a good job, listen, we're not here to try to, you know, convince you to believe the way we believe, right? We're just kind of calling it as we see. And I wanted to get back to some of those draft picks that people were talking about. You know, they mentioned Zach Tom, great draft pick, right? They mentioned Quay Walker. I think that was a great pick as well. Devontae Wyatt as a pass rusher, my goodness, awesome, right? You know, there were definitely some good picks in there. It's just some of this stuff just I don't – it's hard to understand exactly the direction the team's going in. But, again, I'm just a dumb redneck. What do I know? I'm darn sure not on the level of Goody with talent evaluation or Matt LaFleur with schematics. So, I'm just glad we're along for the ride, man. It's been a blast. So, Tim, thank you for your time. Thanks, everybody in the chat. Appreciate you. For those of you listening on the pod, thank you for making us a part of your day. Hit us up on Twitter. Let us know what you think. I'm going to be putting polls out more often. I did one up on Jordan Love earlier today that we'll mention the results tomorrow. The whole purpose of that is just to kind of test the pulse of Packer Nation and kind of understand, okay, what are people thinking right now, right? And most of the time I find myself going, man, I'm in the minority. And that's cool, right? It's nice to kind of get that information too. But thank you guys, like I said, for making us a part of your day. As always, let's go out and be the change we want to see in the world, and go Pack Go.
The power sweep. Actually, it's the lead play in our offense.
Tell the tackle, take the defensive end if he's over him. If he's not, you drive down the first man to his inside. Pull back and get him. Take the first man outside the offensive tackle. No one shows. Go right by them and field inside. If the YN has the linebacker taken out, he cuts inside. If the YN has the linebacker in, he comes all the way around. If you look at this play, what we're trying to get is a seal here and a seal here, and try to run this play ending